What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Continuing, if you can believe it, there are more bingos coming to the York Show. The York Show is October 9th and 10th at the York Fairgrounds in York, Pennsylvania. It's also called the White Rose Game Room Show. It's my favorite show. It's the only one I'm attending this year, and it's usually the only one that I attend. There's a fantastic mix of wood rails, EMs, solid-state games, DMD games, and, of course, bingos. This year we're putting together the first ever wood rail row. And I would encourage anyone who's listening, if you have a bingo and are thinking about bringing it, but have some concerns, please message me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. I would love to talk to you. We have a lot coming, but there are many, many more that Bally produced, and I would love to see them all there. I know that's unlikely, but if you have something and you want to talk, let me know. I'm here. So, for tonight, I wanted to talk about yet another bingo that's coming called Silver Sails. Now, if you listen to the Golden Gate episode that I did with Steve Smith, then you practically know everything about Silver Sails. Silver Sails is the sister game to Golden Gate. And Silver Sails, aside from the artwork, plays identically. It has the golden game, it's got the purple section, and it's got all the other typical Magic Screen features, including pick-a-play, extra balls, yellow and red super sections, and the blue section scores either 300 or 600 with either 3 or only 2 balls. So, this is a really deep game. And I've had the pleasure of playing both Golden Gate and Silver Sails, and I love them both. I just think that this particular Magic Screen is really, really fun. But who am I kidding? I like them all. So, Silver Sails, the big difference between it and Golden Gate is the artwork. The artwork on Silver Sails is a boating motif instead of San Francisco. Now, the cabinet stencil on Silver Sails reminds me a bit of Bounty, but instead of having the large ship kind of looming over the back box, on the side of the back box you've got various flags, similar to what you'd see on a ship sailed for pleasure, or in a boating race of some kind. You have the seagull flying by, which I think is a nice touch. There's another seagull on the cabinet side. And here you've got various boats. So it's almost like you're in the boat and you look up and you see the flags on the side of the back box. You look over to your right and you see the other sailboats floating past, which I think is pretty cool. The back glass is kind of like a boat race at sunset. So you've got a beautiful golden sky, and the silver sails are depicted on the back glass. You know, as the sun starts to set, if you can imagine, you're on the water, you look over at a sailboat which has normally a white sail, it's going to change color or become iridescent as the sun sets. And so I believe that's where the title comes from. Now, as you may have heard on the Golden Gate podcast, the backglasses, cabinets, and playfields are completely interchangeable between these games. That's not usually or always the case, but in this case, as Steve Smith had mentioned, they were cranking them out. They were trying to get these games out the door quickly and sold. So sometimes they were just jamming in whatever parts they had. Steve's bingo that he used to play on location had a Golden Gate backglass, but a Silver Sails rest of the game. And there were several that I've heard of that were made that way, and there were a few that were made the other way that I've heard of. Now, there were probably many that were made with this kind of mix-up, and it must have been hard to tell them apart in the factory. So, let's talk about the insides a little bit. The only difference internally between Golden Gate and Silver Sails is that on Silver Sails, there is, I believe, one cam on the control unit which is shaped slightly differently, which will prevent you from getting certain features that Golden Gate does not, or maybe it's the other way around. I wish I could find the technical write-up that I had seen on that. I'm sure it's probably right in front of my face, but I don't quite recall where it is at this moment. But the games essentially, from the player's perspective, play identically. Now, if you want to read how this game plays and understand the Golden Game before the York Show, or just in general, for those of you that have Jeffrey Lawton's excellent Bally Bingo Pinball Machines book, look at page 106. Starting with the paragraph second from the bottom that says, "Let's discuss play a little bit," you'll be able to see his illustrations and follow along with how he says this game plays. And hopefully that'll be relatively clear. Now, as you've probably heard, these are very complex machines that did an awful lot of on-the-fly calculation, and the Golden Game is one of the more complex, not necessarily, I don't know if complex is the right word. It's a big feature. I'll just put it that way. It requires the machine to completely change its state. And there are several things in a Bally Bingo which do this, but the Golden Game is one of the most obvious. So anytime that you change modes in a bingo, the game has to completely rethink and rewire itself. And it's pretty incredible the ways that they did this. Here's an example. And this goes for any game with pick-a-play with extra balls. If you push the yellow button after shooting your fifth ball, then it'll put the game into extra ball mode. And actually, you can do this after your fourth ball is shot, I believe. At any rate, this trips out 2 different trip relays in most games. In the back box, these trip relays not only direct the step-up voltage to the extra ball unit, if such a thing is granted, but they also change the game in such a way that the pick-a-play buttons will all register as yellow except for the red button. Now, as you've heard maybe 30 to 1,000 times on this show, or maybe it's only once, I can't remember how often I've said this, but when you first walk up to a bingo, you push the red button. This sets the game into a different mode where it will accept coin and start a new game. If the game is still set in extra ball mode, and there are already 3 extra balls which have stepped up and are on the playfield, then guess what? Do you think it just starts a game and knows what you're doing? Nope. It just eats your money. So, I think that is pretty clever, not from the standpoint of it eating your money, but think about the good aspect of that. Instead of resetting the entire game, it will eat your money, yes, but it'll allow you to shoot that ball, which may be in the shooter lane, who knows? Or maybe you've shot the ball and now you have a winner, but it has not been collected. You just push the R button and away you go. Now you got free money. But, that's one example. The golden game is another. The machine completely changes state from the typical shoot 3, 4, or 5 in a row, or shoot 3, 4, or 5 in a section, which is yet another state change, to shoot 2 or 3 in a particular golden section in the golden game. So let's also spend a moment and talk about how the bingos were so cleverly designed that you can get an inline win and the game can transition into a section win seamlessly with the same what am I trying to say? Not with the same, but with part of the screen showing inline wins and part of the screen showing sections. You can actually get a win in both, and the game understands this. This is some of the stuff that I find so fascinating. The games are engineered so well that it's really hard from a player's perspective for you to get confused or lose your place in the game or be cheated out of a win that you made and rightfully won. It's just, it leaves me speechless. So, not that you can tell after almost 190 episodes, but these games are amazing, and Silver Sails will hopefully be at the Orc Show. This is a maybe game, and I'm really hoping that it will be there. It will be so beautiful to see Silver Sails beside a Golden Gate. And the particular Silver Sails in question is itself a thing of absolute beauty. So the two side by side should be quite the stunning pair. Well, that's all for tonight. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com. Or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at nbaldridge. Or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.